Yes.
He said it may sound selfish, or I don't know if this sounds selfish, but it completely was. He made it talking about, oh, this is for the wood and this is for my friends, well, it's 3 friends when you got a whole wife right there, right? But much like the movie on Slim and Lisa's date, it's about Alicia and Mike, right? Because it's pretty much about them getting back together after all
Mm,
this time. And the movie is basically about,
their
Alicia,
love.
and they, at the end, the last party scene about as teens, he was basically got with Alicia and then saying, oh, since the first day she walked in. So the whole movie is about her, and then the day is really about her because he was really talking about Alicia. That's why he was looking over and stuff like that. So yeah, and then they did get together.
I think that it was interesting that he admitted, because see, he had been accused earlier in the film of reacting in a way that wasn't positive toward Roland potentially getting
Yeah,
married. And he didn't admit it at that point, but he did admit it in front of everybody in his toast, which I think was somewhat to his credit. But I think it's just the natural thing that happens in life when you are transitioning from one phase of life to another.
right.
And it happens to everybody. And that's one of the things I think is so impactful about this movie, is just how it takes you from, middle school, they've just kind of crossed the line of puberty, and now, they're interested in the opposite sex. They're interested in getting with people, right? And what the beginnings of that's like, what happens after high school, and then now we see somebody getting married, and what that phase is like.
Right.
But to me, this is just one of those cult classics. I love this movie. We asked you guys a while ago, The Best Man or The Wood, and hands down, you guys said The Wood was, kind of the better movie, the movie that you think of, and
Yeah.
I agree with that.
And with the ending, with Mike and Alicia, it was kind of like they kind of left it open, right? We talk about the ending all the time. Did these people stay together or not, right? Or is this ending definite? Basically, they had this conversation earlier about how Roland was following his woman, right? Around, and he needs to man up. It's basically what Slim said. But then, when we get the conclusion of, up to the modern era of Mike and Alicia's relationship, he's like, yeah, so how cold is it up in New York, right?
Life is in the Big Apple.
Life in the Big Apple is cold.
So how cold is it back east?
Because now it's open to maybe he goes and he follows Alicia, because that is more important than trying to be alpha or whatever y'all trying to be today. You know what I'm
And
saying?
Alicia was always very strong-willed, strong-minded. She didn't seem like the type that was going to be compromising too much. She wanted to go to New York. She went to New York. And the fact that she loved him or cared about him didn't stop her from going to New York for college, and staying out there, quite frankly, right? So the question that I have is, do you think, as we look at this, do you think that they made it? Do you think that Roland and Lisa's marriage lasted after the camera stopped rolling?
I think it did. I think it lasted. What about you?
I do. Normally, not normally, but a lot of times I'm like, hey, ain't no way that this worked. In this case, I do think that it lasted, because the things that made Roland skeptical was the impact of his relationship with his friends on there, right? That was the thing that made him say, maybe I shouldn't, right? Because he was willing to follow her anywhere. He was in love. He wanted to be with this woman, and his cold feet were the result of the external things, right?
Yeah.
And I think they lasted.
Right, and I do think that Mike kind of took a page out of his book. He learned from Roland in this. But do you think that Alicia and Mike actually got together?
Yes.
Really?
Yes, I do. But they wouldn't have gotten together if Mike stayed in Cali. Mike had to go. He had to pack his stuff up, and he had to move
So
to New York City in the cold. And that's where they live now.
Roland supposedly getting cold feet and not showing up at his wedding basically led to Mike and Alicia getting back together. Or would it have happened either way? Because I don't think he comes to that realization that I can follow a woman and I need to follow my heart if they hadn't gone through that whole day with Roland.
That is true. That is very true. We probably need to just have that whole conversation in a video in and of itself about their relationship.
So make sure you subscribe.
But I do think that it never would have happened, and it was made easier because Alicia was at the wedding. But I still think he might have been looking at his old little black book or whatever, going over to Alicia. He might have contacted Stacy if Stacy was free. You never know. Stacy probably owned a business somewhere, so he could get in contact with Alicia if she wasn't at the wedding, right? If Alicia wasn't invited to the wedding, then he probably would have stopped over to the Stacy house and been like, "Hey, Stacy."
Back in those days, it was a little slightly different. So you could show up at the mama house, and she probably still owned the house. 2023, I don't know what y'all gonna do, man.
Yeah, you gonna have to. They get on social
Everybody
media,
done moved.
find somebody's Instagram, and then you just, that's how you can keep in contact with them.